In American literary history, few novels have loomed as large as F. Scott Fitzgerald's 1925 classic, The Great Gatsby. Lee Cowan takes us back in time.
Dotting the water's edge of Long Island's Manhasset Bay, the opulence of the homes speaks for itself, but not nearly as well as F. Scott Fitzgerald once spoke of that opulence.
A breeze blew through the room, blew curtains in at one end and out the other like pale flags, twisting them up toward the frosted wedding cake of the ceiling.
That wedding cake of a ceiling likely did look down on Gatsby-esque parties back in the day.
The bar is in full swing, and floating rounds of cocktails permeate the garden outside until the air is alive with chatter and laughter and casual innuendo.
I can almost hear the music playing and feel the spirits of, the parties that went on here.
Fitzgerald lived in a much more modest house just a few miles away while he was writing The Great Gatsby. Elena and George Scheedinger, though, believe he must have visited here. They imagine him while tilting his head back to down a bootleg cocktail. Fitzgerald took note and then wrote their ceiling into his novel.
I absolutely believe that to be true.
That Fitzgerald was here.
Yeah.
His novel came out 100 years ago this month. Scholars consider it a literary masterpiece. Hollywood finds it irresistible.
How do you do, old sport? I'm Gatsby.
And so does Broadway. There's even a recent graphic novel of Gatsby that brings Fitzgerald's characters to life. Starting with James Gatz, he believed he was too poor to marry the rich girl of his dreams, so he reinvents himself.
I'm afraid I haven't been a very good host, old sport. You see, I'm Gatsby.
It's less about love and more about longing, his especially, for Daisy Buchanan, just across the bay.
I don't want to go home.
And don't.
They were so near, and yet worlds apart.
I hadn't realized that either side of the bay that they were so close to one another, and that you almost could look into the windows on the other side.
That's Blake Hazard, the great-granddaughter of Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald. That's her grandmother as a baby. They are celebrated relatives who she says are looming lovingly large on this centennial.
I've gotten used to witnessing these kinds of things about my family, about my great-grandfather with other people and sharing it, and I think that feels right.
Many, many places inspired Scott.
Gatsby tours have become popular.
This is where The Great Gatsby is set.
This one run by Kevin C. Fitzpatrick, an author and New York historian.
There's a point where we're in the middle of Manhasset Bay, and you can look to the left to West Egg and to the right to East Egg, and it just clicks, because they can picture that green light on that dock.
Few of those mansions remain. Most never survived the Great Depression. Torn down to make room for the new. But back in Manhattan, some of the Gatsby lore remains, especially here at the Plaza Hotel.
There's a story that Zelda would come in here and just go round and round and round.
It was a temple to the times where important people did important things, including Blake's great-grandparents.
They both really wanted to be in the world of the world, writing about what they saw, chronicling it all, and
having a good time doing it.
And having a great time doing it.
The Fitzgeralds were not wealthy themselves. While they did enjoy money, they were amused with its perils, too.
They were careless people, Tom and Daisy. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together.
He was drawn to these things, but also very much an observer of them, felt very outside of, certainly of the wealthy set.
He did rub elbows with the wealthy set at Princeton. Although he later dropped out, his papers found their way back.
Let's take a look.
Oh, wow.
Including the only surviving handwritten manuscript of Gatsby.
Here we have entire, half a page scribbled out. The whole book is like this. And
Emma Sarconi is a rare book librarian at Princeton's Special Collections at the Firestone Library.
he was very exacting as to what he wanted the book to be.
At the time, Fitzgerald was coming off 2 big hits, and he believed that Gatsby would surpass both of them. But Gatsby landed with a thud.
How many copies did it originally sell?
Less than 20,000.
Jeez.
Yeah.
How did he react to the mixed reviews?
He was devastated. He wrote a letter to his daughter Scotty sort of in his final years, lamenting the fact that none of her friends would know who he was.
So what changed? Well, the times, perhaps. During World War II, the newly formed Council on Books in Wartime shipped millions of pocket-sized books to keep the troops entertained overseas.
This copy is relatively small,
including 155,000 copies of The Great Gatsby.
We wouldn't be talking about this book today if this edition hadn't come out.
Fitzgerald died long before that, at the age of 44. At that point, he thought he was a failure.
He'd really fallen into obscurity. Famously, very few people attended his funeral.
And yet today, Gatsby rubs dust jackets with the likes of Jane Austen, Steinbeck, and Hemingway. For many, The Great Gatsby is indeed the great American novel.
It sounds silly, but I wish Scott could be here. I just think he'd be so thrilled.
Yeah. And surprised, probably,
and
right?
surprised. Certainly surprised.
Among the few keepsakes that Blake has are her great-grandmother's necklace, given to Zelda by Scott, as well as this ring. Coincidence the stone is green? Well, we'll never know.
Gatsby believed in the green light.
That haunting green light blinks for all of us. Dreams, perfection, whatever eludes us, we still keep trying.
So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past.